Alright, so on to the review of The Hunger Games. I'm sure people have been looking forward to this. This is directed by Gary Ross, written by Gary Ross and Suzanne Collins, and stars Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, and Liam Hemsworth. And I suppose I should cover this right away. I have not read the book, so I have no idea. Like, I had no idea walking into it what it was about. Not a big deal though. I felt I was probably better off walking in with an open mind, not comparing the book to the movie. That whole deal. And typically I can do that with being fairly impartial. But from what I understand, it seems fairly faithful to the book with minor alterations. All right, so Jennifer Lawrence plays Katniss Everdeen. I guess the background is that the Hunger Games, Earth was ravaged by some war, some uprising type deal. This is set in the future. So what remains of the world is split up into 12 districts, and Katniss happens to live in District 12, which looks pretty run down. It seems to be kind of a group of miners, and I mean as in coal miners. Looks like it's just Katniss, her sister Primrose, and her mom. Mom seems like we don't get a lot of information on her, but it kind of seems that Katniss is kind of the leading adult in the group. I think, as far as I know, technically Katniss is 16, but they really don't bring that up. And if they did, it was something that I just glazed over. Is that with these Hunger Games? Is that the people? I think it's from ages 14 to 18. Kind of seems like a small gap for people to be scared about. The one thing that Katniss's sister Primrose was worried about is because Primrose is 14, so this is the first time that she's in this lottery, this drawing, and Katniss is like, "Oh, you'll never be chosen, Prim." There's not a whole lot of else that's going on as far as I can recall. I mean, there was little bits in the Capitol, I believe, kind of hinting at the buildup of the Hunger Games. We with Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother, by the way. He plays Gale. I think he plays a bigger role in the following movies, but this one, his role was kind of small. It's pretty obvious that he likes Katniss too. I'm not quite sure if that was just the friend zone type thing or whatnot, but Katniss and Gale have their moment together, and this thing flies over District 12, and the lottery has begun apparently. So all of them have to line up, all the kids, and I think the parents are kind of in their own little area, and they choose the ladies first, and Primrose gets chosen. So as a result, Katniss ends up volunteering, which is apparently the first time anyone has ever done so in District 12, and I suppose it's because of the conditions. And as far as I know, there's a lot more information behind each district. Like District 11, I think was kind of more like agricultural grain type district. So it seems like each one has their resource, but that doesn't mean that one's gonna be richer or resourceful than the other. As far as I know, the higher up, the more likely it is that life is probably a little bit easier on you. But that's a conclusion I'm drawing. We never really saw much about District 1 or District 2 or District 9. So, like I said, Katniss ends up doing that against volunteering, and then then when they're selecting the male from to represent District 12, Peeta Mellark, Peeta. For a while, I thought they were just saying Peter, really odd, but it's Peeta, as in the group of people that the ethical treatment of animals type thing. Think that, except with an extra e, gets chosen, and essentially they are going to go on their way to the Capitol, get trained for 2 weeks, or not trained, but kind of get shown off to the world for this Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is advertised, and it kind of made me think of Death Race a little bit. And I had not watched the original. I've seen, the one with that one British dude. Either case, Death Race, where people were watching this as a form of entertainment when the world's kind of broken down. Same, it made me think this, and I know that this has more of a Suzanne Collins, who wrote the books, had more inspiration based off of a Greek story. I think it was Theseus, but I could be wrong on that. I don't remember the exact story that she got as an example. It sounds like she had the inspiration came from two separate stories. So the majority of the first hour after they get chosen is Katniss and Peeta are being shown off along with all the other pledges. So there's 24 kids, one's going to make it out alive. That's kind of the thing. You get weapons, you'll have these sponsors. The sponsors can help out these kids in the Hunger Games themselves. Like, let's say you got stabbed, as an example. If you get a sponsor can send something into the games that can help you with the wound and hopefully survive. So this is where, and I didn't even mention Elizabeth Banks. She plays Effie Trinket. As far as I know, she's kind of like the mayor of District 12. She doesn't really play an important character in the story, but I like seeing. She was interesting to watch, and for some reason they don't say his name, and it's kind of important because it sounds like he plays a bigger role in the following books. But each district kind of people have won before, in District 12 being kind of on the bottom of the totem pole. They as far as I understand, they just have the one surviving winner of the Hunger Games, and that being Haymitch Abernathy, who is played by Woody Harrelson. And so Katniss and Peeta end up meeting him on the train to the capital, and Haymitch comes off, he's a drunk, essentially. Not quite sure if that's as a result of him surviving the Hunger Games or what he had to do to survive said Hunger Games. But eventually they end up, Haymitch ends up kind of resonating with the two, which is nice. And so when the kids show up, they end up getting kind of washed down, cleaned up, because, well, especially from District 12, very dirty type, environment. Kind of made me think like the Dirty 30s a little bit, and I'm not quite sure if that was the inspiration or not, but it also had a 50s aesthetic to it. Like the way that people dressed made me think the 1950s a little bit, with the futuristic twist. Especially when they went to the Capitol, because people looked butt fucking ugly, and I think that was the point. So, and I want to mention him too, but I might as well cover base here with Stanley Tucci. He plays Caesar Flickerman. He's a TV kind of thinking announcer, and we see him from time to time, and he has this wild blue hair. He's actually a pretty likable character. I didn't see anything evil about him so far, but him being part of the Capitol, it's possible. Then you had Wes Bentley. He played Seneca Crane, who's kind of the guy who runs the Hunger Games. He's the guy that controls the cameras and what goes on in the Hunger Games themselves. And I kind of want to get to Donald Sutherland. He plays President Snow. His role is rather small in this particular movie, but I'm assuming it's going to get bigger as the movies go along. And then the last one I'm going to mention is Lenny Kravitz. He plays Cinna. And as far as I know, each kid has their stylist, and it's possible that Peeta and Katniss ended up sharing him. Not quite sure. But Cinna, I like Lenny Kravitz's Cinna in this movie. And he really doesn't serve a big purpose other than he's a stylist, he's a cool guy. That's kind of his story. And so the 2 weeks is them training and trying to show off and getting the sponsors and making the audience like them, rooting for someone. And I suppose this maybe was an overly long explanation leading up to the Hunger Games. Problem is that the Hunger Games is at the halfway point of the movie, which, as I've done with reviews, is I kind of try and stop at the halfway point to give people room to, watch the movie and not have everything ruined for them. And there was a lot I skipped in the first half of this movie, but I'm gonna kind of explain a little bit. Once the Hunger Games starts, the kids don't know where they're getting sent to. They could be, in polar ice caps or something. You just don't know, and these kids end up being in a wild. So it's kind of more of like a forest of sorts, and they're gonna try and survive. Katniss ends up running off right away. Gets kind of a survival bag, and so she's really just trying to hide out for a little bit. Other people are a little bit more violent and killing right away. Eventually, there's a group that forms that kind of just hunt and take out each individual, which it's a practical tactic. And like I said, I'm not going to get into too far, but alliances change a lot throughout this whole film, which is really cool. So there's a lot of brutality to it. So just keep that in mind. There is a little bit of violence, but it's not overly bad. That being said, favorite scene, anything with Woody Harrelson. I like Woody Harrelson. He's a great actor. Seeing him in the movie alone is worth the admission price. Pros, it was definitely a fun movie. I can't really think of anything con-wise. It's not like this movie was too original, but it wasn't exactly like, oh, I've seen this, I know what's going to happen. I was pretty open to watching this, and I there was times where I'm like, do this, do this, do this. So yeah, now kind of I remembered what I was going to talk about for the closing comment, and now I forgot again. Don't you hate when that kind of thing happens? It pops in, pops out, pops in, pops out. Oh well. So my score for the movie is a 4 out of 5. It's definitely a good movie. However, I don't know, and this is actually what I was going to mention in the closing comments or during the box office, is that this is definitely an event film. Anyone who, and unlike Twilight, guys can like this movie too. I think one of the main reasons that ladies are really liking this is because, well, you have a strong female protagonist, which is great. And I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons, but I'm sure this is one of the main reasons what brings the ladies to rate it. And guys read it too, don't get me wrong, but I'm guessing. I could be wrong. Tell me why you like it. That's fine. And this is what I was going to talk about, is that this is an event film. However, if I'm going to, let's say I look back in 2017 and go, man, what big movies are in 2012? I'm going to look back and see The Hunger Games and go, hey, that was a good movie, but I'm not going to go, man, that was the end all. This is not $155 million good. It's an event film, and it made a lot of money, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine that it made 155. However, it's unlikely for me that I'm gonna be like, man, I should go out of my way and buy this day one to watch it. I don't feel that I resonated with it as much as others do, and I think there's a lot more investment in it than I'm gonna give it. As I said, 4 out of 5 is not bad. I just don't resonate with the film like others do. So yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for the review then. Hopefully you guys enjoy what I had to say.